Today's garage cooking challenge is going to be a venison stew using tenderloin, which is the muscle inside the back of the rib cage that cushions the kidneys, and some stew meat out of the hind quarter, celery, onions, potatoes, leave them whole so they don't come apart, carrots, tomato paste, and some red wine vinegar, and spices that I'll talk to when I get there. Going to add some liquid, this being pheasant broth, when I boil down the carcasses of the pheasants and save it's the equivalent of chicken broth, but there's no salt in it. So, I'll get started. Okay, so as I'm getting prepared, this is my bacon grease can. I put in some boiling water to melt it down so that the bacon grease is pourable. I've cut the onion up into the right size pieces, and I'm going to cut some celery up. I'm defrosting the pheasant broth in this little pot of boiling water, which should be done quickly, and then I'm going to cut up the celery. Now the celery, this is a violation to the no pointy leaves rule. Celery leaves are really good in stews and soups. So I will cut it up in large enough chunks that they won't dissolve in the stew pot while they're cooking. I'm going to leave the skins on the potatoes so they don't turn into potato soup mush, as much as my Irish heritage would seek that. And I'm leaving little baby carrots whole. And so I've got the onions ready to go, celery's cut, potatoes and carrots are ready to go. Next thing I need to do is prepare the meat and get that rolling. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is sear the meat. These are stew meat chunks. I leave them pretty big when I put them in the freezer because they're very flexible. This is one venison tenderloin, and so by the end of the day, this is going to be really good. So you sear the meat really to add flavor to it. People say it's to hold the juices in. I don't think that's the case. But I will cook a little bit. I've got just a touch of bacon grease in the pan. The rest of the bacon grease I will add as I put the rest of the ingredients in. But I'll turn these over once I get them brown. And you can see that they brown up pretty quickly here. So just improving the flavor of the meat, locking it up. And then what I'll do is I'll take the meat out of the pan, and then I'll put in the onions and celery and cook them. And this is what we've got in the pan now will be the base of what this is. A half an onion, and this is pointy leaf celery. And what we've got going in there now is the beginnings of what will become the gravy in the stew. We'll add the pheasant broth to it, tomato paste, spices as we go along, and then we'll put the carrots and onions and the meat back in. See that I have browned these a bit, and that's enough to have them ready to go. Next we'll put everything back together. Here I'll add the pheasant broth. And it has a little bit of fat in it. And then I will add the meat back in. And onions, really, I've come to appreciate. They are great. If you look carefully at an onion, you'll notice it has no points. It's nice and round. Carrots, no points, nice and round. Potatoes, no points, nice and round. You could put kale in here. Haha, the devil's lettuce. Never happened. But I'll get the tomato paste in and then we'll spice it. All right, last ingredients going in, tablespoon of tomato paste. Some red wine vinegar, you could use balsamic if you want. The rest of the bacon grease to make the gravy. And then the spices. This spice is a combination of thyme, just a little, garlic powder, or 2 garlic cloves unmashed, some salt, pepper, and rosemary. Looking at the list, that's it. Rhonda did this. I think it's going to take more spices than this, and we will do that when we finish. By the way, my blood pressure never went down after I retired, and so I eat salt. The salt that I use is light salt. It's sodium chloride is normal salt. Sodium's what's bad for you. The chloride's not so bad. This is potassium chloride. So if your blood pressure's high, use what's called light salt. That's potassium chloride to keep your head from exploding. So carrots and potatoes going in, and we will mix this all up. And today I'm going to break a rule of garage cooking, which is I don't use anything else. I'm going to add, a cup of water. And that's going to be our stew. So I finished putting all the ingredients in. Meat, potatoes, carrots, tomato paste, spices, celery and onion. And it's ready to now simmer for the next 5 hours. But instead of tending a campfire all day, I'm going to cheat and put this in Rhonda's oven for the next 5 hours at 300 degrees. And that'll make it ready just about lunchtime for us. And I'm looking forward to it. That meat ought to be, given that it's tenderloin, it ought to just fall apart when you eat it. So we'll let you know how that works out. So time's up. It's going to be our lunchtime. So here's how this turned out. The meat looks really tender. Yep, it's going to be great. Venison stew.